Kings Kangwa making his Champions League debut against the Citizens, the defending champions when it comes to the Champions League. Let's get to engage Franklin right away. Omnen, good morning.
Good morning to you. Thank you for having me.
So when sometimes twajitaliga mujitonga watu mpona ali mukogunka mujibu.
Mbombo turajiwa wanse.
So kuri bonse batweberera kuri gonse nko mutweberera twamutambula kuri babo bali ku Botswana, Zimbabwe, mbona awutaluba Namibia twalumba gapati. And you can also contribute on the show by calling the number +26097475471. The number is right on your screen. And yes, make your submission. What you make of the performance of the Copper Queens last evening, as well as maybe you've got a goodwill message to Kings Kangwa, who made his UEFA Champions League debut during the course of the week. Let's start with the game between Morocco and Zambia. It was not the first time that these two teams were facing off, but interestingly, when we went to represent the continent at the World Cup, Morocco did way better than Zambia.
Yes, they did. They got to the at least got beyond the first round than Zambia did. Obviously, a few dynamics could be put there in terms of the opposition first and ABCD, but whatever the case, we may not want to read much into yesterday's encounter, because I think a few dynamics at play, like I said, changed lineups here and there for both sides in a way. But on the account of the football that was played, I always want to separate the two. When doing an analysis, you analyze, you take away the final result, the final score, then you also analyze the performance. So when you look at those two dynamics, Zambia did well in one of them, in the other maybe not so much. We don't know what the Moroccan perspective would be, but on the account of the football that was played, I think we didn't see a lot of surprises as far as what you expect is concerned from both sides. Both sides basically first played the match in the way that you expect. The Zambian style with Coach Bruce Mwape has always been, go on a quick break when you go forward, try and use the pacey players up front. They still stuck to that blueprint basically. For the Moroccan side, they want to build through the phases, and that's what you saw yesterday. So nothing strange. They are really good win for Zambia, but if we're going to take a deeper analysis, maybe a few things that need to be improved.
What could those things be?
Yes, so in the way that Zambia approaches matches, we've seen that with the better teams, we tend to struggle. You saw that at the World Cup. So basically, when the out ball is prevented, when the out ball to go to Barbara Banda is prevented, or to Rachel Kundananji is prevented, the team doesn't have any other way to go. And so yesterday, last night, they still stuck to that same way. But then the question is, with the level we want to get to, with the high level we want to get to, are we sure that playing that same way is going to yield results? Maybe not, going by the evidence that was presented at the World Cup. The other thing that I would really love to see in this Zambian team is, because when you watch them in training, they'll build from the phases, but why are they not able to do that during match day? It speaks to maybe a few things that they're not doing right. Among those could be just failing to translate how training is into a real match situation. Sometimes it's also about maybe not having the confidence enough that you're able to replicate what you do in training. And so I think there might be need for an improvement on that end. The other thing that we've seen with the Zambian team is that they'll basically not string 5-6 passes when they're playing against top opposition. But then, like I said, if you want to get in that top bracket, those are things that we must begin to see. I'd also be interested to see a few new faces, if I would say so. Who's Barbara Banda's understudy, for example? Who's Rachel Kundananji's understudy? Who is Susan Banda's understudy? So the moment we begin to answer those questions, then I think we're going to be moving in the right direction. For the last 4 matches, including the matches at the World Cup, we've seen a player like Everine Katongo being isolated. Basically, you hardly know if she's in the game, chiefly because of how the team plays. The team doesn't play through the midfield, and so what that does then is that you are denying your best players the opportunity to be on the ball. And if your best players are not going to be on the ball, then you tend to struggle, and we even saw that yesterday. So basically, you may most likely see her when she's trying to mark, but is it her best quality? Obviously not. You want to see your players bring to the fore their best qualities, and so let's try as much as possible to help them do that. But overall, a good result. Performance, a few things that need to be improved, like I've just outlined.
You speak about the fact of having understudies for some of the key players, and our expectations were that heading into this international friendly, maybe the first game we could be able to see a few younger players, maybe then bring out a full squad, or should I say the players, the most dependable players in the second game. But looks like we went all out even in this first game, first international friendly match. Any difference, or have you picked any lessons from the way we played in this game and how we played in the last game at the World Cup against Costa Rica? Are there any lessons that you may feel Coach Bruce implemented in yesterday's game?
Not really, like I said, because the approach was pretty much the same. As much as early as possible, try and hit on a quick break going forward. And I think it was basically still the same template. And so, like I said, against the better teams, we tend to struggle to get results like that. Now, what you want to see in any team is you want to see progression. What you want to see in any team is you want to see moving from one level onto another. We really didn't see much of that yesterday. We are hoping that maybe in the next match we are going to see, some of those changes. But overall, I think it's still basically the same template for Zambia. As much as possible, go forward as early as you can. But then the moment that your key speed stars in the wide areas are taken out of the game, then the team falls through. But then I think there's only one thing that I saw yesterday, which I think we could actually make better use of. I think Ochumba is a player that is, for lack of a better term, is underrated. Because I think if we rated her as highly, she should be starting most of the games, or at least be, even if she doesn't start, be central to what the team tries to do. Because of the ability that she has to hold on to the ball, because of the ability that she has to bring other players into play, because of the ability that she has to maybe play the game at her own tempo. One of the key components that you need in football is ball retention. And ball retention is only going to work when you have players that are comfortable enough to be on the ball, to maybe take 2, 3, 4 more seconds on the ball, try and size up what their options and then play the passes. But we hardly see that from most of our players. And so if you have players that have got that quality like Ochumba, like Everine Katongo, you must be able to use them as much as possible. And then even at the highest of levels, you should be able to get an advantage. Because if you always want to play quick going forward, you see you have a lot of turnovers in possession, or breakdown as people may want to call them. And so I think that is one of the lessons that, when you see certain players come on, you see those lessons and you want them to apply them going forward.
We've seen her, sometimes she's used, sometimes she's not used. Yesterday she was brought into the mix. I think should have been in the second half of the game. But this has been a cry for most people to have Ochumba being central among the starters in some of these games. What could be the reason as why maybe she's not used?
It's purely on how I think the coach intends to approach his matches. The coach wants to play with quicker players.
I meant to believe, Franklin, you and I would concur that Ochumba is among the best, the two best strikers in our local league.
Yeah.
Ham as well as Mapepa have been the highest scoring players in the last 2 seasons or so. But when it comes to the national team, we see little of her.
Yes, and so like I was saying, I think it's purely about how the coach wants to approach matches. Because when you look at the quality that she possesses, I think she's seen not to be the quickest player. But then I think we cannot crucify her for that, because she possesses other qualities that are going to benefit us even much more. Like I said, she holds on to the ball. She's able to size up her passes and make the right pass at the right time. She's able to play the football at her own pace, and that's what you require. But I think the coaches prefer players that have got blistering pace, the players that are more direct, and I think that's what usually makes her be on the bench. But make an observation: the moment she comes onto the pitch, you'll see a bit more coordinated football. Yes, exactly. You'll see her making passes into the final third, joining in attack, and even the team looks better. Even last night, the 2 goals that we scored and the chances that we created were created after she came in, because of the passes that she started spraying, how she managed to support other players, and you saw the impact. And so that's what you want for a substitute. Credit to the technical bench for making that substitution. It really helped them, the team, a lot. But then, if you ask me, with the kind of football that I think Zambian players are best suited for, we need a player like her because of the impact that she brings into a match.
One player I think that has been instrumental in the Copper Queens team in recent years has been Belem. She's not part of the outing. Would there have been any difference in an event that we had her on that left back position?
Well, the person that filled up for
right back, actually.
Yeah, the person that filled up for her, I think, did a good job. The right side of the defense was not really affected as much. It was not really exposed. So I would say the person that played there did well. And then getting back to the issue that I said earlier on, sometimes you need some understudies to come through and play in matches like those. Nothing against the COSAFA, but then I think that the quality of the opposition that we face mostly at the COSAFA is not really the best. So if you're going to groom younger players, I think you must expose them to fixers like that of Morocco for them to have a chance, and I think it's good for the player that played yesterday.
We assembled a full squad for a COSAFA outing?
As much as possible, I want to use COSAFA as a breeding ground, both for the male team and also the female team, because at least that's close to an A-grade game where you can give opportunity to new players to learn their trade. But then if you're going to take your full strength to COSAFA, then what's the goal at the end of the day? Look, there are players whom we know what they are going to give us. You know what Barbara Banda is going to give you, what Kundananji is going to give you. Susan Banda, you know what she's going to give you. So I think leave those possibly for the highly competitive matches, but for COSAFA, which is supposed to be a breeding ground, which is supposed to be a platform to develop new players, I think as much as possible give it to the youngsters to try and strap their stuff.
We also have our eyes on the Olympic qualifiers.
Yes, and so there's always need to have a balance. But then, like I said, there are players that have already been with the team. They're already integrated into the team. So as much as possible, we must keep the supply taps running. And so how do you keep the supply taps running? So we're playing the players that are not really so experienced in matches like the COSAFA. Even a friend like yesterday, give them cameo appearances. 15, 20 minutes is good for, it's an externalized environment. It's, a better quality of opposition. And that's how you best learn. You best learn in environments that challenge you. If the environment is not really challenging you, there's no growth there. And if there's no growth, you don't want to find ourselves in a situation where for maybe a considerable period of time you have a very strong team, then after that crop is phased away, you begin to struggle because
we go back to the 2012 AFCON winning team.
Yeah, where you don't have people that are ready to take over, and that's going to be a big problem. So as much as possible, we must ensure that we phase our approach in such a way that at any particular time, okay, yes, you have the spine of the team, the more experienced players, then you have the players that are coming through, and let the blend be there so that with time you have consecutive seasons where you have the right players at every opportunity given.
But the coach's comments also, from his comment, he says, in as much as we are preparing for the COSAFA as well as the qualifiers for the Olympic Games, we also want to improve on the FIFA rankings. I think we did see some improvement after the World Cup, and we would want to keep on improving in that regard, and that's the more reason why he could have used a stronger team for this outing as opposed to having understudies take the center stage.
Yes, at any stage you're not going to parade a team full of understudies. I think let's get that one out of the way. But then it's important that you get the balance right. It's important to improve the FIFA ranking because it helps you a lot, especially when the seeding comes for getting into qualifiers, because then you get, mostly if you're higher seeded, you get the weaker teams per se, and that usually improves your chances of qualifying to a tournament. Yes, there's one eye on that, but then what happens? Okay, we improve the FIFA ranking in the next 1 or 2 years. Then after that, we don't have people that are going to still maintain us at the lofty height that would have hit with the FIFA ranking. Then the work done would have been close to zero. So yeah, we must find the right balance. That's why I would be interested to see the squad that is going to be put up in the next encounter. For me, I would rather one between Barbara and Rachel doesn't start that much, so that you give another youngster an opportunity to start a match, knows how it feels to start a match from the start against quality opposition. I would also want to see maybe a different face apart from Susan Banda starting that match. credit to the technical bench for starting Letitia Lungu in that match. You know, she went to the World Cup, didn't have any part to play, but they started her yesterday, and that's what we are calling for.
From being was she a third or fourth choice goalkeeper? Then she went to the World Cup. She should have been second choice goalkeeper there, and now she's starting in just within a period of about 2 months or so. Things have drastically changed for her.
Yes, and that's sometimes those are the stories that you look for in football. To a player, it communicates that the coaches are confident in her abilities. It also communicates to her that the potential that she possesses is something that people believe in. And so what that does is that it gives her confidence, and when it gives her confidence, it equally radiates to the rest of the squad. And those are the stories that you are looking for. Well, she may not have been tested as much yesterday, but she still kept a clean sheet, and that's a good start for a goalkeeper. And so just like we saw for her yesterday, we desire to see something similar in the other positions. Obviously, you're not going to play an 11 full of young stars or full of those that are still trying to learn. There has to be a right balance. And what speaks to the right balance? Just have the core of the team, just have the right spine. Then you can add a few other pieces to keep the machine oiled and keep the machine working.
Is the Kundananji Barbara Banda striking force working for the Copper Queens?
On the evidence of what we've seen, I don't think so. I think there's still a lot of individual play. Now, don't get me wrong. It's important that at times you have players that are able to.
The second goal that Barbara Banda scored, I think that was some sort of individual brilliance, where you're able to take on about two defenders and also manage to find the back of the net.
Yes. So I was saying, you know, you see when you look at the two players, they are very pacey players, and they want to take on the opposition. And sometimes you need those kind of players to give you the penetration. But then there are moments where that is applicable, and then there are certain moments when you don't really need it. Because what players must realize is that the ball moves quicker than they do. So a pass will get the ball into a better place than you eliminating numbers, because as you try to eliminate, others are coming in for balance, others are coming in to close you down, and so that means that your opportunities to pass are always going to dwindle, and that's what we see mostly with these two players. Sometimes you see one running with the ball from the center line, almost getting to the byline, but are you telling me there are no options that are being provided? And so I think we must get the balance right. Is the partnership working? Maybe not. I wouldn't really want to call it a partnership, because even when you look at the two of them, how many times have they maybe given an assist to each other? It then answers the question. But sometimes what you need in a partnership like that is that you need a third player that is going to be the glue between the two of them. And that's why a player like Ochumba comes in, because then you're going to play off her and see the best out of those two players. Because with the pace that they possess, you don't really want them to be starting from deep, but you want them to use that pace just in the final third of the opposition, feeding off a pass from a player like Ochumba or a player like Everine Katongo, and then you're going to see them score. But then the way that we play, unfortunately, does not offer them that chance of having that glue to give them the balls and, you know, just finish off.
Grace Chanda, can she be the player maybe that also contributes to distributing of balls to either Barbara or Kundananji?
Exactly, because of the finesse that she has, because of the ability that she has to carry the ball and eliminate numbers, and she has the ability to find that final pass. We saw that at the WAFCON. She was one of the most outstanding players, and so, but then, you know, she hasn't played lately. She's been injured, but then you need that kind of a quality. She's the kind of player whom you can basically put her in any team, and I think she's going to flourish. But then with time, like we're saying now, when she's injured, who comes in to play exactly the way she plays, or to offer you a similar quality that she brings to the table? And if we do not have that person, it should be begging the questions: what next when this phase of players is phased out?
What next when the 2014 under-17 players are out of the picture? And these include Barbara Banda, Grace Chanda. They were part of the outing in Costa Rica some years back. It's 9 years ago when we went to Costa Rica for the under-17 World Cup. Let's take a set of commercials. When we come back, we continue with the Diamond Sports Cafe, brought to you by Lion Bet, and visit us on the platform for you to create and begin betting with us. We'll also be looking at the aspect, or rather, Klings Kangwa making his UEFA Champions League debut. And yes, they scored first, but you know what the citizens do. Usually when you score first, they will pounce on you.